How do we end up with something like this? It's pretty crazy. We drive down the road, we go past this, we say, oh, look at all the lines, this is so cool. And then you drive past, you don't think about it again. But what you're actually looking at here is a lot of Earth's history. There's a lot of information in these layers. So one thing that I can tell you right now, just by looking at this, is that these top layers here are younger than the bottom layers. It's almost like a laundry basket. So imagine you have a laundry basket and you want to figure out which clothes you wore the furthest time ago. So if you think about a laundry basket, you just put clothes in there, layer after layer, layer after layer, and the top layer is the layer that you put there yesterday. The oldest of the layers is down at the bottom. So it's the same thing with rocks. The older the rocks are, the deeper we need to go into the earth. Another thing I can tell you is that these rocks formed underwater. Rocks that form layers like this tend to have formed underneath the water, underneath our ocean. So these rocks formed in the ocean. So these rocks had to have been uplifted. And proof that they've been uplifted is that they've been folded. Okay? By folding rocks, we can prove that there's been some type of motion of squeezing. So if you take Play-Doh, right, and lay it out flat, and then you squeeze it from both sides, it'll end up having some folds in it. So we're just seeing one of these folds. But you can imagine the entire Earth being folded. Why are we talking about this? Why do we care about this? This lets us know what has happened, where we're standing over the past millions of years, and maybe even billions of years if we go back further enough or deep enough. Okay? So let's get into some interesting things. I'm going to try and get through this pretty quickly. So there's this idea, my favorite word ever, uniformitarianism. Uniformitarianism is like a uniform. When you put on a uniform for sports, everyone has the same uniform on because they're on the same team. All right? What uniformitarianism means is that all things have been similar to how they are now, right? So outside, it rains. Do you believe that it rained when the dinosaurs existed? If yes, then you believe in uniformitarianism, meaning that the things that are happening today, the things we see outside today, have been happening for millions of years. Maybe not the exact same things that we see happening today, but similar things, right? Meaning that if it rained, maybe the rain turns into streams. Streams have existed for millions of years. What do streams lead to? Streams lead to oceans. And oceans are where we have these layered rocks forming. So uniformitarianism just means what is happening today has been happening for millions of years, all right? So what happens? Sedimentary rocks, or rocks that form underwater, form flat layers. And these layers go back to this idea called the law of superposition. The law of superposition is the laundry basket. The oldest layers are at the bottom. The youngest layers are at the top. So if we look at something like this, imagine this is your laundry basket, right? The youngest rocks are going to be up at the top. The oldest rocks are going to be down at the bottom. The bottom layers are going to be the oldest because they're deposited like the laundry basket, all right? So here, we can see these layers here, layer, 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 right? All these layers that go down like a stack of cards. The oldest rocks are gonna be at the bottom, the youngest rocks are gonna be at the top. So when we look at something like this, we need to figure out, was it folded first? Or were those layers there first? And the way that I like to think about that is my arm. In order to break my arm, it has to be there first, right? You're not gonna just break my arm if you don't see it, but you could break my arm once you see it. So these layers had to form first, and then they get folded. So let's look at something like this. At first, when a stream flows into an ocean, it carries all these sediments with it, and it drops these sediments, and they form these layers, layer after layer, layer after layer. These layers have to be there in order to be folded and uplifted. Just like we saw here, right? I was talking in the beginning about how these rocks formed underneath water. Well, they formed nice and flat underneath the water. And then some type of continental action comes in, right? So some type of plate tectonics comes in and crushes this and smushes it and starts to warp it. That is going to be our folding, all right? After it's up above the ground, weathering and erosion comes through and cuts that stuff up. All right, cuts that stuff up, and then it subsidence, and these layers form over it. Okay, so this is all we've got here. We've got this process called folding. We got erosion that cuts down through it, and then we've got subsidence, which is sinking of the rocks. So main point, oldest rocks are on the bottom because of the law of superposition. These rocks have formed into layers and have been forming into layers due to uniformitarianism. What we see today has been happening for millions of years. We see layers of rocks forming today, nice and flat, and we also see these folded areas. So rocks are always being formed, folded, eroded, and subsided, meaning that they uplift, they come down, and that's it. All right, guys? Hopefully that helps.